Michael Turner was no stranger to struggle. At just 36, he was already a widower and the sole parent to a 5-year-old boy named Caleb, whose big brown eyes were the only light in his world. After his wife died in a car accident 3 years earlier, Michael's life became a delicate balance of survival. He worked long shifts as a mechanic by day and picked up handyman jobs by night, just to keep food on the table and the roof over their heads. His heart still ached every time Caleb asked, "When's mommy coming back?" Michael didn't have the answer. All he had was love and the will to fight for his son. Then came the night that changed everything. It was late, nearly midnight, when Michael stopped by a local gas station on his way home from a job. That's when he saw her. A young woman, maybe 19 or 20, standing alone near the dumpster behind the building, shivering, scared, and clearly trying not to be seen. She looked like she hadn't eaten in days. Her clothes were thin, torn. There was something in her eyes, haunted, exhausted, as if she'd already lived 1,000 lives in just 19 years. He approached slowly, cautiously. "Hey, are you okay?" She flinched. "Please, I'm not doing anything. I'll leave. I just needed a place to sit for a minute." "I'm not here to scare you," he said gently. "Do you need help?" She hesitated, then whispered, "I don't have anywhere to go." Her name was Aria. Over warm coffee and a sandwich inside the 24-hour diner, she told him everything. Her parents had sold her, to a man twice her age, for money. When she tried to escape, they disowned her. She'd been living on the streets for weeks, doing whatever she could to survive. Her voice shook as she talked, but she didn't cry. She had no tears left. Michael didn't know what came over him. Maybe it was the way she looked at him, lost but hopeful. Maybe it was the thought of his own son, and how he'd want someone to help Caleb if he were ever that alone. "I have a couch," he said quietly. "It's not much. But it's warm. You can stay for a few nights. Just until you get back on your feet." She stared at him in disbelief, her voice cracking. "Why would you do that for me?" "Because no one else did," he answered. Bringing Aria home wasn't easy. Caleb woke up the next morning and stared at her with wide, curious eyes. "Is she staying with us?" "For now," Michael said. "She's our guest." And just like that, something shifted in the house. At first, Aria kept her distance. She helped with chores, stayed out of the way, and barely spoke. But over time, little moments began to stitch her into their lives. She taught Caleb how to draw superheroes. She folded laundry while humming songs from her childhood. She started cooking small meals when Michael worked late, leaving plates covered on the table with little notes that said, "Don't forget to eat." The silence in the house began to soften. The laughter started to return. But the road wasn't smooth. Michael faced judgment from neighbors and friends. "You're a single dad. You can't just take in a teenage girl off the streets," they warned. He didn't care. Aria, too, had her own battles. Nightmares. Panic attacks. Moments where she'd disappear into herself for hours. Michael never pried, he simply let her know he was there. One night, after Caleb had gone to bed, she sat beside Michael on the porch and whispered, "I've never known kindness like this. I didn't think people like you existed." Michael looked at her, eyes soft. "You deserve to be safe. You deserve better." She started to believe it. Months passed. Aria got a part-time job at the local library. She enrolled in night classes. She brought home books for Caleb and read to him before bed. She smiled more. She stood taller. And Michael? He began to heal, too. He'd forgotten what it felt like to come home to warmth, to laughter echoing in the kitchen, to someone asking how his day was. The grief that once sat heavy on his chest began to ease. He didn't realize how lonely he'd been until Aria became part of their lives. Then, one evening, Caleb said something that stopped Michael in his tracks. "Daddy," he asked, looking up from his coloring book. "Can Aria be my new mommy?" Michael's breath caught. Aria, who had overheard from the hallway, burst into tears. She knelt beside Caleb and hugged him tightly. You already feel like family to me, she whispered. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't a fairy tale. It was something deeper. Two broken hearts, finding pieces of themselves in each other, learning how to trust, how to care, how to rebuild. Years later, Arya became a licensed counselor, working with young girls who had been abused or abandoned like she once was. She opened a small non-profit center with Michael's help, Haven House, a place where no one was ever turned away. Michael never stopped working, but he did so with renewed purpose. Caleb grew up surrounded by love, resilience, and strength. And Arya? The girl who had been thrown away by those who should have loved her? She became a miracle for Michael, for Caleb, and for so many others. Moral: sometimes the people we save end up saving us. A single act of compassion can change the course of a life. Or 3. And when you open your door to someone in need, you just might find the missing piece your own soul was searching for.